On this episode, we discuss a number of topics, including whether the recent chip shortage means you should rush out and buy a car, if lifting the suspension on your vehicle will affect your handling and crash protection, and is there a safest car color? All that and more, next on Talking Cars. Hi everyone and welcome back. I'm John Lincove.
I'm Gabe Shanhar.
And I'm Keith Barry.
And this week we are going to cover questions. We got a whole lineup. We got video questions. We've got ones that were also just sent in, text questions. We do love them. We love the video questions. TalkingCars at iCloud.com. Remember that. Send text ones in as well. But, video questions, we love that because saves time for you to see us talking, but also just a little more interactive. So with that, we're going to jump right in with our first question. Comes from Jim. So Dave, roll the tape.
Well, I have a 2018 Volvo XC60. Well, the other day I got this interesting letter in the mail that said to make sure I put the right oil in, and it recommends a 020. And it gave me a sticker to put on inside the car as well. Well, when I went into the hood, and this sticker says to put in 530. And then so I looked in the book, and the book says to use 530 except under extreme conditions where I would use a 0W20. So I looked at a couple of the records at 20,000. It seems like they were putting in the original 5W30. And then at the 40,000 mile mark, they were putting in the 020. What happened? Did they find out that 020 was better, and so they made the change?
So the Volvo change, definitely an interesting thing. Keith, I think you reached out to a couple people and to answer Jim's question.
Yeah. So what happens here is not necessarily unusual. I talked to John Ibbotson, our chief mechanic, and he just told us that, sometimes a manufacturer will figure out that one oil is doing a better job than another over the life of a car's engine. And what we don't sometimes realize is that when a car manufacturer builds a car, it doesn't just go, whoop, okay, there you go, off the line and forget about it. They're actually still doing testing on engines as the cars, age, and as they get field reports from people who actually own the vehicles. So there might be little process improvements that happen over the lifetime of a car, and that's probably what happened here. So John Ibbotson says, that's what you should use in your car for all future oil changes, that sticker that you got. Replace the sticker under the hood with a new one. You've got low miles in your car. You've got frequent on-time oil changes. So no concern about any harm to the engine from using the original recommended oil in the past. So good news. Sometimes you'll get a sticker in the mail and you have to stick it on your car, but that's about it.
Let me add a broader perspective here. It's been a trend in the last few years for manufacturers to go to thinner oils, meaning oils that have a lower viscosity. So, for instance, if up until now the most common motor oil was 5W30, 5W stands for winter, so that means it's pourability in cold temperatures. And the 30 means that its viscosity when the temperature is high. So anyway, in order to get better fuel economy, a lot of manufacturers have shifted into thinner oils, 0W20 namely. And what that means is that thinner oil, lower viscosity, that means less energy for the piston as it moves inside the cylinder, and therefore better fuel economy.
So I also got an email because I reached out to Volvo just to get a comment, and the Volvo spokesperson sent a quick message and said the oil viscosity change was intended to more closely match factory fill specs, as the specific Castrol 0W20 used at assembly wasn't available in the US. So going with Gabe, definitely, looking at the fuel efficiency and the energy use and the viscosity, they also just apparently didn't have it at the time, or weren't doing it at the time. So that's why you're getting the updated sticker for the car as well, so that to go forward. So anyway, Hope that helps, Jim. Let us know. Let us know about the sticker. You can put it on, like Gabe said, I think, or Keith said. But, if you're really worried about it, go to the dealer, ask them, and they'll probably just put it on there, and maybe it'll be a warranty claim. Anyway, our second video, we're going to go to John. So hit it.
I've got a 2018 Toyota Highlander Hybrid. My wife affectionately calls it the man van, and I made a decision to try to zhuzh it up and make it not look like any other man van. So I went to my local tire store, had a 2-inch lift put on it, changed the wheels out, and added larger tires. Now I'm curious if there's anything I need to be concerned about over the long haul. Are there any safety concerns I need to have? I probably should have asked this question before I did it, but I like it the way it is. Thanks for producing such a great show.
Okay, so John kind of went in reverse of the typical question. He's almost like the kid, asking for forgiveness after eating the cookies versus, asking permission to take the cookies because, he was like at the end of the video kind of like, oh, and by the way, maybe I should ask you guys first.
Those are some big cookies.
Well, those are big cookies, I mean, the cookies are getting bigger time and again. So I went this time back to John Ibbotson, chief mechanic. He said that, a change to a vehicle will definitely have some effect. Look, raising the ride height, it can affect the designed handling, stability, ride quality of the Highlander, airbag operation, crash results, safety features, safety, just how it reacts can be changed due to the lift. Larger wheels and tires, definitely braking distances, handling, brake wear, a bigger rotational mass to stop, just in the wheels itself, long-term wear on the suspension. In short, yes, it will have an effect on that.
Not to mention with these snazzy off-road tires, the noise you're going to add is another factor, and of course, it's going to change the handling, ride, steering characteristics of the vehicle. I think he should have probably bought a Toyota 4Runner instead of the Highlander.
No, but there's no 4Runner hybrid.
That's true. It's almost the opposite. The 4Runner uses up all the fuel that the Highlander hybrid saves.
I'm sure he's negating some of the hybrid benefits with this modification.
The one other thing about this is that also, if you think back to, high school geometry and, the Pythagoras and the triangle, the higher that's why I'm a writer and that's why Gabe's an engineer. The higher the car gets up off the ground, your front blind spot is actually going to get a little bit worse because you're going to be able to see less in front of you. 2 inches, not a huge difference, but, you have people who are lifting their cars more and more and more. And that really changes what you can see in front of you. I'm sure people have seen those videos where you pull up, a lifted truck pulls up to a car and the car disappears in front of it. So, yeah.
I mean, at the end, manufacturers, they spend a lot of time tuning the vehicle for what it's, what they intended to be used for. You make changes, it's going to have an impact of it. Be aware of it. Be aware of stopping. You may want to look into, and I'm not going to tell you what to get because it's not my expertise there, in this forum, but see what people are using for brake pads, what's going on with stopping distances and at least safety as much as possible. I think back to people at track days, you're like, well, I threw a chip in it and a new turbo and blah, blah. What'd you do to brakes? They're standard. That was scary to instruct. And, there's going to be an effect, cause and effect, and you change the car over. But let us know, seriously, and good luck and safe driving.
And by the way, when we're talking braking in terms of stopping distances, it's really mostly it's the kind of tires you have.
Definitely. So anyway, we're going to go to our third question, a video question from Bin.
Hi, TalkingCars crew. I'm a longtime listener and look forward to new episodes every week. I have a question about child car seats. I try to secure my daughter's car seat as tight as possible using the latch anchors. I also get the harness pretty snug too. I've read the instructions that say less than 1 inch of seat movement is tight enough. And I've also read the guides that say the harness is tight enough when you can't pinch the straps between your fingers. But I figure tighter is better for both of those cases. My reasoning was that in auto racing, you want your harness as tight as possible so that you don't move in a crash. Recently, though, somebody reminded me that in racing, there's a head and neck restraint system. So now I wonder Is it possible to have your child seat too tight? I figure CR is qualified to answer this question with Emily Thomas's car seat expertise and Jake Fisher's racing experience. Looking forward to your response, and keep up the entertaining and informative shows.
So with child seat installation, I've had the youngest children. I got the youngest children most recently in the car seats here in the group. So I took on this one, and I talked with Emily Thomas, who is one of our child seat experts at Consumer Reports and frequent podcast guest. She said, look, without mechanical assistance, you won't be able to install your child seat too tight. By hand, it shouldn't really move more than 1 inch side to side or front to back at the belt path. So, you don't have to worry about overly tightening, or having to really wrench it down that you're going to make it super, super secure, overly tight. But one of the key things is that because the installations do loosen, just in and out of it, you're moving it around, the child's moving around, just all of that. Make sure you check it periodically. Don't just expect it's, the belt tension's always going to be the same every time you click the child in. And you don't want the belt really digging into the kids to begin with. You want it to be comfortable. Obviously, you want to look at it winter versus summer. You don't want to have it over jackets or anything like that, because that's going to have too much slack there. But basically, check it regularly. Don't cinch it down so much that you're, keeping the child in there almost like they're a prisoner, because it's going to just make the trip bad. They're going to be uncomfortable. They're going to be complaining. You're going to be annoyed. It's just not there. So the 1 inch. But also a key thing is that because you're using latch at this time, make sure you look at the manual and see when you need to switch over to, for the weight limit of the child and the seat combined, to seatbelt installation. And also just remember to use top tether for all forward facing. So just keep those things in mind. Keith, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I just want to say, Ben, great choice on the 9.3 Sport Combi, and I hope you keep that on the road for a long, long time.
That's a collector's item almost.
Yeah.
So again, thank you very much. Send us, let us know what feedback. Send us a, response to your question, or put it in the comments below from this video. And let us know the experience that you had, Ben, if it worked, and if it cleared it up for you.
And especially if you can't call your local Saab dealer.
Yeah, yes. Though there's probably independent mechanics everywhere waiting with bated breath to fix it. So before we continue with more questions, we just want to take a moment to let you know about the Talking Cars donation program. If you're not aware, Consumer Reports is a nonprofit, so all the work we do is funded by memberships as well as donations. If you're able to give, it really does help us keep doing the work we do, including this show. You could find more information out at cr.org/givetalkingcars. All right, so we have one more video question. This one's from Gregory. Go ahead.
Hi, Talking Cars. I have a question about engine oil. The manuals say never to overfill, so when you're checking on the dipstick, keep the oil level between the low and high mark on the dipstick. Yet, as part of the purchase packages, they give us free oil changes for the first couple of years, and every time I've gotten it back from an oil change, they've filled it beyond the top mark of the oil dipstick. What gives?
All right, Keith. So we've got another oil question. So I don't know who you went to for this question as well.
Yeah, so this is a common problem. And if you look online and at forums, you'll see all the time people checking their dipstick after getting their oil filled. And it's a problem that happens sometimes. I talked to John Ibbotson yet again. We should just have him come on sometime. And he said that overfill. I don't know if he'd want to. He said overfilling the oil past the top mark, it's not a good idea. And if your dealer, if the place you're going to get your car fixed is overfilling the oil, bring it to their attention. They should resolve the issue. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. A lot of times they're filling it to a factory spec, and it's just kind of dumping that oil in there, and they might not have drained the old oil, and that might be the reason. They might be filling it with the right amount, but the old oil they might not have let drain out, because that can take a while, and these places are trying to get people in and out as quickly as possible. Something else also is just make sure that you are checking it with an engine that's cool and parked on a level surface when you're checking it too, because it could it'd be a little embarrassing if it was you that was that was measuring it wrong and not the dealership. Gabe, why should we worry about having a little too much oil in there? It's just going to burn off, right?
Yeah, you'd think, but no, that's a really it's something that really goes under the radar. And overfilled oil is definitely not a good thing because it changes the ratio of oil and air inside, and it causes some frothing of the oil, and that degrades the ability of the oil to lubricate well. Also, it changes the oil pressure, and that might adversely affect your gaskets, seals, and whatnot, and just not a good idea. I mean, I'd say I had this happen to me in one of my cars. I noticed that, the oil was overfilled way past the upper mark on the stick, and I just went back to the shop that did the oil change, and I asked them to redo it. So I had to dump the oil that they just filled in and redo it and pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things you don't have to just, take it and if they're making a mistake, if they're making an error regularly, that's going to then eventually bring you back to them for added expense. You don't want to go there anyway. So, talk to them first, like Keith was saying. But look, there's a lot of places out there. Obviously, we all can't do our own oil changes all the time. I know there's gonna be enthusiasts like, you should be doing it yourself, and like the world isn't always like that. But definitely talk to the mechanic, talk to the shop, or find another one. Vote with your dollar, so to speak, and find someone else. Look online and see if there's a place that a lot of people are happy with. So now we're going to move into a couple questions that were sent in by chat or text or email to us. Janet from New York says, I'm itching to buy an EV hatchback or a small SUV, but I'm particularly interested in some upcoming 2022 models, so I'm inclined to hold off for the time being. However, I'm also reading about chip and part shortages causing delays and beginning to feel like it's possible no cars will be available in the near future. Am I foolish to wait? Keith, we're going to jump to Keith again, just the way the order is, but you know about what's going on. You've been doing some research on the chip shortage. If people don't know, semiconductor shortages, a lot of parts go in the cars. Keith, what's going on with that and how's it affecting?
Well, if there are no cars going to be available in the near future, then we're in real big trouble.
But your car, you could sell that new, that new French car you bought, right? You could get $5 for it.
Oh, definitely. No semiconductors there, that's for sure. It's semi-operational, but no semiconductors. Yeah, so the one kind of good piece of news is that there's a little more inventory for EVs, it looks like. Even just anecdotally driving past my local Hyundai dealer, kind of the only things that were sitting in the lot out front were Kona EVs. And there's your EV hatchback or small SUV that you're looking at right now. But with these shortages, something that's kind of interesting is that dealers are finding out and automakers are finding out that they're making more money because people are willing to pay more for this product, which is a little more scarce. And now all of a sudden automakers are thinking, if I don't make as many cars, I can sell them for more money and make more profits. Maybe we're just gonna, when we start getting all these, the shortages taken care of, maybe we're just gonna make fewer cars going forward and keep prices high. So it's kind of they ran sort of a real world experiment to see what would happen. Obviously, macroeconomic factors, if the economy tanks, if people don't have the money to spend, unemployment goes up, yada, 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 that'll change. You'll see incentives. But for the near future, even if these shortages get fixed, you probably won't see that many more cars in the lot because it costs money to have those parked out there. So I don't think you're necessarily foolish to wait at all because it's not going to get better, but you should buy a car when you're ready to buy a car. And, if it's $1,000 here or there, it kind of has to, that's a decision you have to make, but it's not like these cars are not going to be there when you go looking.
In terms of EVs, if you wait, you're likely to benefit from longer range, from faster charging times. The technology keeps evolving; it keeps getting better. And from what we know, there are some upcoming cars. First of all, be on the lookout for our upcoming road tests of the Mustang Mach-E and the Polestar 2. But upcoming EV hatchbacks are the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6, which we haven't experienced them yet, but From what we know, they look pretty promising. But if you're really itching to buy right now, as Keith said, then you have choices between the Hyundai Kona Electric and the Chevy Bolt.
Well, right. There's the new Bolt that's out. There may be potentially previous generation Bolts that are languishing on dealer lots. Depending on looking. I didn't run a check on that. Keith, one thing, I mean, Gabe makes an excellent point on what's coming down the road, and it's almost like timing the market never works anywhere, whether it's stocks or even figuring out now car supply. But it may, because there's so many new ones coming out and there's new manufacturers, not new manufacturers that are new to the market, though we have the Rivians and such as well coming to the market, but existing manufacturers with more models, it may also be something that you play with your taxes and determine, when it may work for you to buy, if it's this tax year or next tax year, because there's a federal tax credit in state ones.
Yeah, that's a great point, and especially if you have a better selection of EVs out there. In addition to the ones that Gabe mentioned, they're even more on the horizon. Yeah, there's no such thing as a great deal on a car you don't want. So wait until there's something you really really like, and buy it then.
And Janet, we have on consumerreports.org, it's consumerreports.org/cars. We have a running tally of the new cars coming. So new, normal, conventionally powered vehicles, but we also have a whole section with new EVs that are coming, and it's a running tally. Talks about the BMW i4 and the iXs and the Audi e-trons that are coming out, and just all the different manufacturers, with new vehicles in the pipeline. So, also head over to cr.org and check that out, just to see maybe that you want to totally wait till 2022 or even later. We're going to move to our next question. Hani from Canada says, longtime listener and avid CR subscriber here. Love listening to your sometimes tangential car talk. I've always been curious what your take is on car color and safety. I've heard opinions on the color of your car making you more or less safe in inclement weather, and wonder if there's any evidence that this is the case. Thanks, and keep up with the witty banter. Well, right back at you. Anyhow, haha. Keith, what did you find on this one?
I found there's actually been a lot of research, and almost none of it is conclusive. It's like one of those, coffee's good for you, coffee's bad for you, have an egg, don't have an egg, where there's so many variables that it's almost impossible to control for them. I mean, there's a study out of New Zealand from 1993 that controlled for drivers' age, alcohol consumption, seatbelt use, vehicle speed, average driving time, driving license status, insurance status, weather, and it found that blue cars weren't as safe, silver cars weren't as safe, and you want to get a yellow car. And then there's
so all those 911 GT3 RSs are super safe because they're like fly yellow, right? Is that,
obviously,
right.
Obviously,
speed yellow. My bad.
And Mitsubishi Mirages too. Those are the only bright colored cars you can buy right now. It's at either end of the. And then AAA, they actually did a meta study where they looked at a bunch of other studies, including one from Australia, where they that said that gray or silver is bad, but black is the most prone to crashes. But AAA found that there's no association. Some said that white or yellow cars were the least likely to be hit. Some also found that silver cars were the safest. Or the least likely to be struck, at least. And it contradicts, everything just sort of contradicts. And another interesting thing that I learned from AAA is that, a lot of people think that school buses are yellow because it's the safest color. And there's no science behind that. Someone just sort of said, hey, let's paint it yellow because it's bright to see sometime in the 1930s. And that's why.
I know I was trying to find a car that had didn't blend in with either the popular colors out there. I didn't want yellow or orange, but something that didn't blend it. So of course we have two silver cars in our house. My wife's MDX and then my sports car are both silver hued. So that shot that one out the window. But thanks guys. That is pretty interesting. That's a worldwide question and no one has an answer to it generally. And so we're going to go to our next question. Kalana from Hillsboro, Oregon sends in, I drive a BMW X5 45e and my daily commute is about 5 miles. Because of the short distance, I could do most of this drive on electric power only, never having the car kick over to the gas engine. I filled up my tank 3 weeks ago, and it's still an F on the dial. Is this okay for my engine? What about my maintenance? Do I have to think about an extreme use scenario when it comes to maintenance, as my gas engine doesn't get used at all? So
F means fill up, right?
Fill up, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Fun. It's the fun meter. Gabe, our resident EV expert. What does Kalana have to do with this? Is it dangerous?
BMW plug-in hybrids are never unconditionally electric, even if they are in their EV mode. So if you apply a healthy amount of throttle, if you just step on it, the gas engine will fire up and will work as needed. I wouldn't worry about it. If you feel good about it, just take it on a longer drive every now and then. But it's not necessary. And the BMWs have a service indicator. So based on the usage, they'll determine the oil change intervals. And I wouldn't really lose any sleep about it. Just enjoy the car. It's a great choice.
So anything is a concern about, gas sitting in the car for a while? Is there anything with that?
So yeah, there's you want to keep the gas tank as close to full as possible, because you don't want more oxygen to be in the tank and potentially degrade the gas in the tank. So I would, if it were my car, as soon as you get to like about half a tank or even 2/3 of a tank, just fill it up, just so you keep it close to full all the time.
Yeah, and a few months of having gas, if you go a month or so, whatever, between fill-ups, because it's not going to, the gas isn't going to become bad and foul your fuel system. But like you said, don't let, sit with so much air in it, right?
Right.
Excellent. Well, Kalana, let us know what you do with that. Again, send us some feedback. Tell us what goes on, especially, because it is something that we're going to see more and more people, with plugins, having a situation, especially if people are working at home more, or stuff like that, they're not doing their regular commute, or they may just have a super short commute like you, the lucky Talking Cars audience member. So that's it for this episode, which felt like it blew right by. Definitely send us questions. TalkingCars@iCloud.com. If you do have something that's a real pressing question, send us a video one. Sometimes those pop up a little more. They rise to the top, and we love getting the interactivity into the show. As always, check the show notes below for more information on what we discussed in this episode. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.